Welcome to the Nameless.
I live alone, but when I played the recording, someone in my apartment started clapping. It wasn't loud, just polite. 3 slow claps, evenly spaced, like I'd just finished a recital in a half-empty auditorium. I didn't move at first, because if you live alone long enough, you learn the difference between a sound and a sound. Pipes tick, floorboards settle, neighbors cough through walls. Buildings breathe. This didn't breathe, it reacted. The audio kept playing from my phone speaker on the kitchen counter, tinny, warbling. The melody wobbled through cheap compression. I hadn't written it. That's the part that matters. I'm a hobbyist musician, nothing impressive. I work remote tech support during the day, troubleshoot printer drivers and router resets. At night, I mess around with a MIDI keyboard and an old audio interface. Instrumental stuff, ambient, half-finished ideas that go nowhere. I save everything, every scrap, and I am absolutely certain I did not write that song.
I found it on my desktop the morning before the clapping, a file named finished_master.wave. I don't name anything that confidently. My actual project folders look like idea_4 revised to final maybe or piano thing _late. But this was clean, final, declarative, finished. The timestamp said it had been exported at 3:12 a.m. I was asleep at 3:12 a.m. I know that because I track my sleep with a watch. Insomnia issues. I check it obsessively. That night, I'd gone to bed at 12:47. It logged steady sleep until 6:03. No interruptions, no getting up. Still, the file was there, so I put on headphones and listened. It started with a single piano note, sustained, clean. Then a second note joined it, slightly detuned. Not enough to sound wrong, just enough to feel like it was leaning against the first one. A rhythm faded in, soft percussion, not a drum kit, something closer to tapping on wood. And then the melody came. I wish I could describe it better. It wasn't catchy. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple, repeating, but each repetition added something small, a harmony, a texture, a breath. It built patiently, like it knew where it was going, like it had always known. By the 2-minute mark, strings swelled underneath it. Not orchestral, more like a cheap plug-in imitation, but arranged carefully, deliberately. The final 30 seconds introduced a vocal pad, wordless, just layered hums, warm, almost comforting. And then it ended, perfectly. No fade out, no awkward cutoff, just a final chord that resolved in a way my music never does. It was good, better than good. It sounded like me on my best day, focused, intentional, finished. I sat there for a long time after it ended, trying to remember writing it, trying to picture the MIDI roll, the automation curves, the mixing choices. Nothing came. There was no muscle memory, no flash of sitting at my desk at 2 a.m. tweaking reverb levels, just blank. I checked the project folder. There was no project file, only the exported WAV. That was the first thing that felt off. The second thing was the key. I don't write in that key, ever. It's irrational, but certain keys feel uncomfortable to me. This one always has. And yet the song used it confidently, naturally, like it belonged there. I told myself I'd probably started something weeks ago, forgotten it. Muscle memory is weird. Creative flow states can feel dissociative. I even laughed at myself. "You made something decent for once," I said out loud. My apartment didn't respond. It's small, 1 bedroom, 3rd floor of a building that looks newer than it is. Beige siding, identical balconies, the kind of place that doesn't show up in postcards. I've lived here 11 months. I know every sound it makes. The fridge hum has a rattle every 17 seconds. The hallway light outside flickers at night. The upstairs neighbor drags a chair around 9 p.m. There's comfort in predictability.
That night, after work, I decided to play the song out loud, not through headphones. Through the room, I set my phone on the kitchen counter and hit play. The piano note filled the apartment, soft but present. I leaned against the sink. Halfway through, I noticed something. The reverb in the recording sounded bigger, wider, as if it had been recorded in a space larger than my bedroom studio corner. My setup is dry, treated panels, close mic placements, but this had depth, natural reflections, like it had been played somewhere else. I walked into the bedroom. My keyboard sat exactly where it always does. USB cable coiled neatly, interface light off. Dust hadn't been disturbed. I went back to the kitchen. The melody was building, and when the final chord rang out, someone clapped 3 times, behind me, measured, appreciative. I didn't spin around. I didn't scream. I just stood there, hands gripping the counter edge, waiting for the follow-up sound. Nothing came. No footsteps, no breathing, no shifting of weight, just the hum of the fridge. I turned slowly. The living room was empty, the couch untouched, the coffee table bare, the front door locked. I checked it anyway. Still locked, deadbolt engaged, chain hanging loose like always. I opened the hallway closet. Coats, shoes, vacuum, no one. I checked the bathroom. Shower curtain half open, mirror fog-free. Nothing unusual. I even looked under the bed, which is ridiculous, but I did. Nothing. I replayed the recording. This time I walked into the hallway outside my apartment and shut my door, just to test. The song played faintly through the wood. It ended. No clapping. I went back inside, played it again, stood in the center of the living room, waited. It ended. Silence. No applause for anything else that reacted. Around 2:40 a.m., I heard something soft from the living room. Not movement, not footsteps, just a faint tapping, in rhythm. I held my breath. It matched the percussion from the song. Tap, 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 tap. My phone was on the nightstand, silent. The tapping continued for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. I didn't get up to check. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to see nothing. Morning light made everything stupid again. Normal. I made coffee, sat at my desk, opened my computer. The file was gone. Not in the folder, not in the recycle bin. Just gone. I checked recent files. Nothing. I checked my audio interface logs. No exports at 3:12 a.m. I checked my sleep tracker again. Still showed uninterrupted sleep. I felt embarrassed, like I'd imagined the entire thing. Until I noticed something else. My desktop background had changed. Subtly. It was still the same photo of a foggy shoreline, but the image had shifted slightly to the left, exposing more of the right edge, an edge I didn't recognize. There was a structure in the fog, barely visible. A building. I don't remember that being there. I right-clicked the image file. It had been modified at 3:12 a.m. I stared at that timestamp for a long time. Then I did something that, in hindsight, made things worse. I searched for my building online, just out of curiosity. I typed in the address. Nothing came up. No rental listings, no property records, no archived posts. I tried variations, abbreviations, full street name, zip code. Other buildings on the street appeared immediately. Mine didn't. I went to the county property search website, typed the parcel number for my lease. Invalid entry. I pulled out the lease agreement from my drawer. The letterhead had the property management company's logo. I Googled them. No results. No website, no business registration. The phone number listed on my lease went straight to a generic voicemail. No company name, just a beep. I checked my bank statements. Rent payments had been processed monthly, but the recipient name was blank, just a transaction ID. I felt that cold, sinking kind of confusion. Not panic, not yet, just misalignment, like a painting hanging slightly crooked. I knocked on my neighbor's door, across the hall, a woman I'd waved to a few times, mid-30s, always carrying grocery bags. She opened the door halfway. "Yes?" "Hey," I said, "quick question. How long have you lived here?" She blinked. "Where?" "Here, the building." She frowned slightly. "I don't know what you mean." I gestured vaguely. "Our apartments." Her eyes shifted past me to the hallway. "There aren't apartments on this floor," she said. I laughed awkwardly. "We're on the 3rd floor." She stared at me. "This is the 2nd floor." I looked at the stairwell sign. It said 2. I had always pressed 3 in the elevator. I turned back to her. She was still watching me. "I think you have the wrong door," she said, and closed it gently. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button. The doors opened. Inside, there were only 2 buttons, 1 and 2. I don't remember there being only 2 buttons. I distinctly remember pressing 3. I went back to my apartment door. The number on it read 204. It has always been 304. I'm sure of that. I unlocked it, stepped inside. Everything was where it should be. Couch, kitchen, bedroom, unchanged. I checked my driver's license. The address line read 204. It always has. I must have misremembered. That's what I told myself. Memory is unreliable, especially under stress. That night, nothing happened. And somehow that was worse. No tapping, no clapping, no altered files. Just silence. But it wasn't comfortable silence. It felt staged, like a pause between acts. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Around 1 a.m., I realized something else. I couldn't hear the upstairs neighbor's chair dragging. I hadn't heard it in days. I opened the window slightly. The parking lot outside was empty. No cars, not even mine. I rushed to the front door, opened it. The hallway lights were off, pitch dark. They're motion sensor lights. They always turn on. I waved my arm. Nothing. I stepped into the hallway. It felt longer than usual. My footsteps didn't echo the same way. I walked toward the stairwell. The exit sign above it was unlit. I pushed the door open and found a wall. Not a collapsed stairwell, not debris, just a painted drywall surface where stairs should have been. I stood there, breathing shallow, trying to remember climbing those stairs, trying to picture the steps. I could. I remember tripping once, carrying groceries, cursing under my breath. That happened, didn't it? I went back inside my apartment and locked the door, sat on the couch, and waited for something dramatic to happen. It didn't. Nothing banged, nothing whispered, nothing moved. The fridge hummed. Except it didn't rattle every 17 seconds anymore. It was smooth, continuous. I started counting in my head. 17 seconds passed. No rattle. I unplugged it. Plug it back in. Smooth hum. I sat there until morning. When daylight came, the hallway was normal again. Lights on, stairwell intact. I walked down. There were only 2 floors. The building directory by the mailboxes listed units 101 through 204. No 300s. I checked the mailboxes. Mine said 204. I went outside. My car was parked where it should be. Other cars filled the lot. Normal. I almost convinced myself I'd had some kind of stress episode. Sleep deprivation can do strange things. Creative burnout, isolation. I work from home. I can go days without speaking to anyone. Maybe my brain was filling the silence with something. I went back upstairs, unlocked my door, stepped inside, and heard the faintest sound from the kitchen. A single piano note. Sustained. I didn't own speakers besides my phone, and my phone was in my hand. The note lingered in the air. Then a second note joined it, detuned slightly. I walked slowly toward the kitchen. The counter was empty. No devices, no visible source. The melody began to form. Soft, familiar. It was the song, but different, simpler. Like an early draft, half finished, waiting. I stood there as the rhythm tried to find itself. Tap, 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 tap. It faltered, stopped. Silence returned. I waited for the clapping. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Not a presence, not a figure in the corner of my eye. Just the sense of being evaluated, like I was the unfinished piece. That evening, I tried to leave. I packed a bag, drove to a hotel across town, checked in, slept. No music, no anomalies. The next morning, I checked my bank app. The hotel charge wasn't there. In fact, none of my recent transactions were. My account history ended 11 months ago. On the date I moved into the apartment. I drove back, stood in the parking lot,
Stared at the building. It looked slightly flatter, like a set piece. I walked up to the entrance, pulled the door open. Inside, the lobby was smaller than I remembered. No directory, no mailboxes, just a blank wall and an elevator with 2 buttons, 1 and 2. I didn't get in. I stood there for a long time, trying to remember where I had lived before this place. The memory felt distant, blurry, like a song I almost recognized. I took out my phone, opened the voice memo app, hit record, and said, "If I play this back and someone claps, I'm leaving." I stopped recording, pressed play. My voice echoed softly from the speaker. It ended. Silence. No applause. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Relief washed over me. Maybe it had all been stress, isolation, a creative mind looping in on itself. I walked toward the elevator. As I reached for the button, I heard it. Behind me. 3 slow claps, measured, appreciative, coming from inside the building. Not the lobby. Not the stairwell, but from above, from a 3rd floor that doesn't exist. I didn't turn around. I didn't press the button. I just stood there, listening to the silence that followed. And for the first time, I wondered something that hasn't left me since. If the song really did finish itself, then maybe I didn't wake up to it. Maybe it woke up to me.